In this video, you'll discover how this one leadership coach landed a $12,000 client with a 15-minute solo podcast.
Without social media. Hello, my name is Anthony Moneri.
I'm Tygo O'Shea.
And over the last 3 years, we've generated over $1 million from our coaching business. We help online coaches build authentic personal brands through 15-minute solo podcasts that allows them to attract their dream clients without social media.
In this video, you'll discover the simple pivot that took a leadership coach from flatlining on social media entirely to getting inbound calls with a podcast.
What changes when you stop trying to be visible to doom scrollers and focused on being found by prospects looking for your solutions.
And finally, why 2 years of consistent content creation can still leave you with a flat client pipeline and how to fix it. So meet David. He is a leadership coach and a speaker who is very good at what he does, has been in his industry for years. And here were the things he was doing to market himself and his business and to get more clients.
So he was posting consistently on social media.
He was podcasting for 2 years, getting around 1,000 listens per month.
And still, with all of that hard work and years invested into the show and posting online, he wasn't widely seen as an authority. I think we've personally had experience where you're posting constantly, showing up, and still not getting the results. I don't know, for David, even though he had so much valuable stuff to share, even though his podcast was very impactful, even though it had so much potential, he wasn't gaining the traction he believed he deserved, and he wasn't reaching the full potential of his content. Now, you've probably been there, where you're posting consistently, but still not getting the results.
So why wasn't it working? Firstly, social media rewards following trends,
posting 24/7,
and chasing algorithms. Whereas for David, he had invested his time and energy in his coaching experience
into getting client transformation
and real leadership knowledge. Now, if you're watching this as an online coach, whether your niche is leadership, parenting, fitness, or something else entirely, you might be in a similar spot where you've invested most of your energy into the art of getting good results and your niche rather than social media.
It's important to know that you still need to build a personal brand online. You can't just spend all of your energy, all of your time, focus in on client results and transformation. But if you don't have a consistent way to be found, if you're not positioned as an authority, then it doesn't matter that you're doing amazing work if you're not able to impact way more people. So things needed to change for David's strategy because what he was doing wasn't working to position him as an authority and to attract more opportunities into his business. So what exactly changed for David?
David decided to turn his podcast into a lead generation asset. He decided to draw a line in the sand and say, hey, I've been doing this for 2 years. It's not getting me the leads I want or even the exposure I want. It can't go on like this. Something has to change. And I have to elevate this podcast to what I knew it could be for my brand.
We made 3 changes to allow him to generate more leads and clients from his podcast. The first one was the show format to position himself as an authority.
The second was the episode structure that turns listeners into clients.
And finally, the exposure strategy to be found by idle prospects every single day.
So the first pivot was the show format change. Now, this was David's show format before, a 60-minute guest interview. And if you've ever listened to a podcast, the likelihood is it was probably a format something like that.
Now, the problem that we found and a lot of online coaches find with this format is if you're an online coach and you're getting a guest onto your show, you're putting the spotlight on them. They're then sharing their stories, their frameworks. And as a result, hey, guess what? They're the person who's being platformed as the authority. Meaning at the end of the interview, they walk away turning your listeners and your audience into clients. For David, he went through this process and had great conversations with other thought leaders. But the problem was, at the end of the interview, they'll walk away with more visibility on the show, more exposure to a new audience, be attracting clients from his audience, and he'll walk away with nothing. I think for both of us, we know this is a scenario that plagues so many online coaches who have the wrong format when it comes to podcasting.
Not to mention that at 60 minutes per episode, for someone that doesn't know David or doesn't know the guest, this is a big ask for them to go in and listen when they're a complete stranger to the brand, given that there are so many other 60-minute interview shows with people way more famous and way more credible, that if you're a stranger tuning into Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or even YouTube to listen to a podcast, why would you choose someone you don't know when you can just invest that same hour into someone you're familiar with? Compared to a 15-minute solo episode, which firstly is way less of an ask for a stranger to give a chance. For example, if you're into leadership and you're trying a leadership podcast, you could still go and listen to a big, long weekly interview with a leadership celebrity. That's probably going to be hosted on Joe Rogan, Stephen Bartlett, Mel Robbins, or one of the other big dogs. But for smaller independent online coaches, having a solo 15-minute podcast means that you stand out from those and instantly get seen as something a lot more bite-sized, a lot more easy to try out, and therefore you can attract way more strangers who haven't heard of you yet.
Number one, having a shorter episode, more people click play. When they click play, and it was David having a solo show, meaning it was just him on the mic. The spotlight now all of a sudden is on him. He's now the person who's positioned as the expert, the person sharing the stories, sharing the frameworks, and in doing so, it allows him to build a deeper connection with that new listener. And because it's a shorter 15-minute solo episode, they actually consume more of the content and get right to the very end of the episode. So he's able to build a like, know, and trust, all while at the same time building that authority positioning, which he didn't have with an interview-style podcast. Now, this, of course, leads to way more inbound leads for his business.
Secondly, once we have the right format that allows him to be the authority rather than giving it all to the guest, we needed to change the episode structure because most podcasts do not have a structure that hooks in new listeners,
that gets them excited to listen to the entire episode,
or builds trust to lead to a sale quickly.
Which is a massive mistake that we've seen so many business owners and online coaches make, which is that they don't have this stuff in place. So they do all the hard work to create amazing content. But if you don't hook listeners with the right episode structure, you've done all this hard work for people to click play, get bored within the first 2 minutes, and then bounce, even though the main content was actually good. So this was the episode structure we helped David implement. We have the intro and the outro, very simple. The goal when it comes to the intro is to hook listeners in, tell them and state 3 benefits they'll gain by tuning in all the way to the end, or tell them what they're going to miss out on if they don't stay engaged, if they don't tune in. If they're a new listener, they don't like, know, and trust you yet, you have to show them and sell them why they need to listen to this episode. When you do this, the outcome is you increase your retention time. People listen through all the way to the end.
When you get to the end, this is the most critical part for actually converting the listener to take that next step with you, whether that's to join your email list or book a sales call or something different. Most online coaches, whether they've got a podcast or not, completely mess up their calls to action by one, not incentivizing it, saying things like, join my mailing list, sign up to my newsletter, which has no incentive. No one wants to do that. Whereas if you even said, join our mailing list to get daily tips on how to convert more strangers into clients through a 15-minute solo podcast so you can spend less time on social media, if you're into that, if you're interested in the prospect of doing that, then there's a reason for you to join our mailing list rather than just to have just one more thing to open. So applying this principle to a podcast call to action massively raises the conversion rate, along with simplifying it. So having a singular incentive-based call to action rather than saying, follow my Instagram,
follow me on LinkedIn,
buy my book on Amazon,
I've got a new program coming out if you want to join it,
get on the TikTok live.
I think you get the gist of what we're trying to say. When you have so many different call to action, when it's not simple and singular, meaning just one simple action for them to take, people get overwhelmed, they get confused, they don't really know where to go. And again, you've done all of this hard work to get them to click play, to listen through this episode, but then you screw things up as the online coach when you don't have a very simple, incentive-based, singular call to action. Tell them one action they should take and give them a reason, an incentive as to why they should take it right now.
The third change after nailing down a format that is conducive to building authority, an episode structure that turns listeners into leads and then clients, is now to get exposure onto this podcast at a much faster rate to actually attract more strangers to then go through the funnel that we've just created.
This is what it typically looks like for online coaches posting on social media to get clients for themselves or when trying to grow their podcast. They're doing a bunch of stuff, but not getting the results. Whereas for David, we simply got his podcast ranked on page 1 of Apple Podcasts and Spotify, which is the main platforms new listeners go to find new shows. So what did he do? He sat back, relaxed, and he got free real estate because when someone typed in keywords like master communication, leadership skills, David's show ranked on page 1 and it was being found at the exact point when people wanted to consume his content.
One of the best kept secrets in the online coaching space is that thousands, hundreds of thousands, in fact millions across all niches of prospects are going on to Apple and Spotify on a weekly basis and typing in the topics that they're searching for. So compared to using social media as a funnel to get clients, where the person that could work with you is scrolling, they might see your post and they probably scroll past. Instead, podcast SEO works completely differently. This is one of the best kept secrets in the online coaching space, that thousands of your ideal prospects on a weekly basis are going to Apple and Spotify, typing in the topics they're looking for, which in David's case was master communication. Seeing the results of page 1 when they type that in, the first things on the page is the shows they're going to consider listening to. So David's show got onto page 1 through our podcast SEO process. That meant that these prospects that were looking for this topic and looking for podcasts around this area then listened to David's show. This, combined with the first 2 pivots that we made of a format that builds authority and a structure that converts, only led to one outcome. The listeners were going to call David.
So here were the results. David went from being stuck at 1,000 monthly listens to over 10,000 monthly listens. He stopped relying on social media as a strategy to build his authority or gain traction. And he's now getting regular inbound leads through his podcast. This is huge because he can now create content in a way that feels authentic while still building his personal brand without, again, having to play into the social media algorithm.
Now, there is a real story of a listener who searched master communication on Spotify. They found David because he ranked on page 1 due to the exposure strategy change we made. They listened through because the episode structure change we made held their attention. And they saw him as the authority because of the change we made, meaning that he now has a solo podcast rather than a guest one.
So what are the results? Well, they listened, they took action, and they actually called him and said, hey, I would love for you to do this for our organization. Later on, David messaged us and let us know, hey, I've just landed a $12,000 keynote because of the podcast, because they found me on Apple and Spotify. If you're an online coach who doesn't want to play the game of social media and you're looking for a different way to build up an authentic personal brand that allows you to attract dream clients into your business without playing that social media algorithm, this is a system you need, which is number 1, a solo format podcast. Number 2, the right intro framework that tells people why they should keep listening through to the episode. Number 3, a way to be discovered, and you do that through podcast SEO. And finally, when you have this system in place, that's how you're able to attract clients who are searching and finding you and then reaching out because they want to work with you.
So if you're an online coach who hates social media, a 15-minute solo podcast done right, like we just mentioned, is all you need to turn your expertise into a client acquisition system. So if that's something that interests you, be sure to subscribe to this channel so you can better understand exactly how you can do this for yourself, so you can finally ditch social media and get way more clients, way easier and way more enjoyably than before.